Welcome to Big Law University, where we don't just study the law, we weaponize it. Alright, let me put you on some serious legal game here. You ever want to take land that you don't own? I mean, you really want to take it without paying a single dollar, no loan, no handshake, no bullshit. Well, guess what? There is a way to legally jack land from a title holder, and that's called adverse possession. This is the next video in a series of property law, and we're going to be going over this today. The case is called Nome 2000 versus Fagerstrom, a case that teaches you how to take what's not yours and turn it into something the law will recognize as your own. So we're going to go ahead and break this down like the smart law students that we are. So here's the setup. Nome 2000. That's the clown who technically owned the land, but they didn't use the land. They didn't protect the land. Nome was soft about it. Meanwhile, the Fagerstroms, they were the real ones. The Fagerstroms saw this acre of land, and they pulled up, and they saw these 40 acres of Alaska wilderness and said, well, this patch of land here looks like it's ours now. No mortgage, no contract, just straight, pure dominance. So what the Fagerstroms did is they set up a camper, they built a cabin on the property, they dropped in some reindeer shelters, picnic tables, a fish rack, a whole vibe, no bullshit. They lived on that land seasonally for years, like the true gangsters that the Fagerstroms are. Now we're going to go over the law, and if you watch the previous videos, you're going to keep remembering this word here, adverse possession. Now, adverse possession isn't just about squatting. It's a strategic takeover. But you got to show the court that you've been oceans about it. Now, if you remember what oceans means because you're paying attention, I'm sure I don't have to go over this with you guys. But for those that are new, who haven't watched the other videos, we're going to go over it right now, what adverse possession looks like. So the O stands for open. That means you're open, you're not hiding, you're posting up in the property like you own the place, which is what the Fagerstroms did. Now, the C stands for continuous, which means you're there just like how the average owner would be. It doesn't necessarily mean 24/7, but you're being consistent about it. The E stands for exclusive. You don't need to chase people off with a shotgun like some crazy social media videos that we see sometimes. But you have to act like the property is yours. Another thing that the Fagerstroms kept doing. Now, the next is adverse. Adverse just means that you're there without permission. The Fagerstroms weren't asking Nome to live on that property. They just acted like it was theirs. They were gangster like that. The N stands for notorious, which means that other people see you. So to all the outside people out there, they would see the Fagerstroms, and to a reasonable person, you would say, yeah, that's their property. Now the S is that bonus that we always want to remember. That stands for the statutory period. This case took place in Alaska. The statutory period in Alaska was 10 years for you to claim adverse possession. So we're going to go over the facts of this case. The Fagerstroms had 9 years. 9 years of living on the property and acting like it was theirs. Now, on the 9th year, when that was already on the books for the Fagerstroms, that's when the Nomes finally woke up and tried to flex their legal muscle. Nome sued. They wanted their land back. But the Fagerstroms said, hell no. We built on this land. The lower court sided with the Fagerstroms. But Nome, he didn't want to give up without putting up a fight. He had to appeal, and he went to the higher court. Why? Because they were upset about the fact that they were about to lose their whole property. And the higher court told them no. So in the trial court, Fagerstroms win. Nome gets upset. He appeals. But the appellate court told them to sit the fuck down. Why? Because the Fagerstroms didn't need to live on the property 24/7. They didn't have to. The land was seasonal because this was in Alaska. And the Fagerstroms used the property exactly how a normal badass loner would use the property out there in Alaska. The Fagerstroms would occasionally let people come into their property to pick berries. They tried to make that argument that they weren't exclusive about it. But the Fagerstroms, to them, that wasn't weakness. That was generosity. And it's what a confident landowner does. The court said that's all valid adverse possession. Now, in this case, they were allowed to keep the northern part of the property. Then you have your southern part over here. The southern part, all the Fagerstroms really occupied this property for was for going on walks. They used the trails, they picked up the trash, but they weren't claiming the land. That's not claiming the land like a G. That's being a damn Boy Scout. So the Fagerstroms unfortunately lost this land because they weren't acting like it was theirs like they did with the northern part of the property. So they lost that part again. So the lesson, make sure you're listening up and paying attention. This is real estate war. The weak ask for permission, but the strong, they just take, like the Fagerstroms. And the law will back you up if you know how to play the fucking game. Use the land. Build on it. Be seen. Be consistent. Be bold. Be the owner of the property before the paperwork says you are. So that's Big Law University. We don't wait. We don't whine. We learn the law to weaponize it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're tired of being a loser in the system and if you're ready to flip the script like a fucking winner, just like the Fagerstroms.